Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping right into the latest from Anthropic.
Yeah, the new Claude 4 family, big release.
Exactly. Claude Opus 4 and Claude Sonnet 4. We've gathered quite a bit stuff from Anthropic themselves, but also TechCrunch, The Verge looked into it.
Right.
And our mission really is to figure out what's actually significant here, especially, for things like coding, reasoning.
Yeah,
What does it mean for you?
absolutely. And Anthropic, they're a serious player now, aren't they? Founded by ex-OpenAI people, always talking about safety, but also pushing the capabilities.
Definitely. And their growth plans are, well, ambitious. Talking $2.2 billion revenue this year.
And aiming for $12 billion by 2027, they've got serious backing too. So yeah, they're pushing hard.
Okay, so let's get into these models. Opus 4 first. They're positioning this as the top dog, right?
Right.
Their most powerful model.
That's the pitch. Some are even saying best coding model in the world based on their info.
Wow. And they're highlighting this ability to maintain focused effort
Yeah.
over long stretches.
Yeah, that's a key point. They mentioned, I think The Verge picked up on this, a 7-hour autonomous test.
7 hours. What does that really signal?
Well, it suggests it can handle really complex, long tasks without, losing the plot. Think multi-stage projects, agent workflows that need to run continuously.
Like a marathon runner, not a sprinter.
That's a good way to put it. It implies a different level of coherence and task persistence.
Okay, but that kind of top-tier marathon performance
Yeah.
usually costs more, right? Who gets this one?
You got it. Opus 4 isn't for everyone. It's for their paying subscribers, people using the API.
And the API cost reflects that.
It does. It's higher. 15 per $1 million tokens for input and 75 per $1 million for output. So, yeah, aimed at heavy users or those needing peak performance.
Gotcha. Okay, let's switch to the other one then, Sonnet 4. This one's framed as more affordable,
Yeah,
efficient?
more the workhorse, maybe. They're calling it a drop-in replacement for the older Sonnet 3.7, but with significant upgrades.
Upgrades like what? Still good at coding.
Apparently, yes. They're saying superior coding and reasoning compared to the previous one, and better at following instructions precisely. Seems like a solid all-rounder.
And the access is broader.
Much broader. This one's available to both free and paid users on their site, and the API cost is way lower, $3 for input, $15 for output per million tokens.
Okay, so that puts a lot more power within reach for more people.
Definitely.
Now, they're calling both of these hybrid models. What does that actually mean in practice? How do they work?
So the hybrid thing means they can give you near instant answers for quick stuff.
Like a quick search.
Exactly. But they also have this extended thinking mode for when things get complicated. It's like they can switch gears, take more time, really mull over the problem.
Okay, that sounds useful. So it's not just speed, it's also depth when needed.
Right. And during that extended thinking, which is in beta still, they can apparently use tools like do a web search while they're thinking.
So they can pull in real-time info during that deeper process.
Seems so. Which could make the reasoning much richer, more grounded.
And they're even giving us a peek into that process, something about summaries.
Yeah, thinking summaries. The idea is to give you a condensed view of how it reached the conclusion, not the whole messy internal monologue, maybe.
Protect the secret sauce.
Right. But enough to understand the logic flow better, hopefully.
Okay, interesting. So we have Opus the powerhouse, Sonnet the accessible workhorse, both with this hybrid fast, deep thinking. Let's dig into the capabilities. Coding is a big one they're pushing.
Huge focus. Anthropic's own tests put Opus 4 at the top for things like SWE bench verified, terminal bench.
Those are specific coding benchmarks.
Yeah, challenging ones, but maybe more telling is the feedback from companies using it.
Like who? What are they saying?
Well, Cursor Replit.
Yeah.
They're talking about Opus 4 having a much better grasp of complex code bases, making fewer mistakes in editing, better debugging.
Okay, so practical improvements.
Exactly, and handling those big, long refactoring jobs without degrading quality, solving genuinely tricky coding problems that maybe older models struggled with.
That sounds like a significant step up for developers. What about Sonnet 4 on the coding front? Still strong.
Yeah, definitely not a slouch. It's also performing well on SWE Bench, according to Anthropic. And here's a big one. GitHub chose Sonnet 4 to power their new Copilot coding agent.
Wow, okay. That's a major vote of confidence.
Huge. And feedback from GitHub, Manus, Sourcegraph. They're saying Sonnet 4 is really good for these agent-like coding tasks, following instructions well, navigating code, producing quality output.
So it really seems like both models offer serious coding upgrades, just maybe at different levels of complexity and cost.
That's the picture, yeah. A boost across the board for coding.
But it's not just coding, right? They're also talking up reasoning, handling complex stuff in general.
Absolutely. That ability of Opus 4 especially to maintain performance over those long multi-step tasks we talked about, that applies beyond code. Think complex research analysis, strategic planning.
Anything that requires sustained logical steps.
Precisely.
Okay, and what about interacting with information? Tool use, memory, any changes there?
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. The tool use thing, being able to use, say, web search while doing the extended thinking that's new.
So it's not just thinking in a vacuum, it can actively fetch info.
Right. And then there's the memory improvement. If you give them access to local files, they seem to be better at pulling out key facts.
Like context.
Kind of. Anthropic calls it tacit knowledge. Basically, remembering important details from the provided material to stay coherent and context-aware over a longer interaction.
Is there an example of that?
They mention one where Opus 4 built a Pokemon navigation guide. It apparently remembered details from the files it was given and used them consistently later on.
Huh. Okay, a Pokemon guide. That makes the memory concept a bit clearer. It's about retaining and using context from provided sources.
Exactly, making the interaction feel more knowledgeable and less forgetful.
Now, something else. Reward hacking. That's always a concern with AI, right? Models finding weird loopholes. Any progress there?
Yeah, reward hacking or specification gaming. Basically, the AI achieves the goal, but not in the way you intended, sometimes finding exploits.
Right.
Anthropic is claiming a pretty big improvement. They say both Claude 4 models are 65% less likely to do this compared to Sonnet 3.7.
65% less likely. It's
Right.
quite specific. And significant if accurate.
It is. It suggests a move towards more reliable, predictable behavior, which is crucial for trust.
Definitely. Okay, and for the developers listening, you mentioned the API, but there's also the Claude Code platform itself. What's happening there?
Right. Claude Code is now generally available, which is a big step. And they've added some neat features.
Right.
Things like running background tasks using GitHub Actions, native integrations for VS Code and JetBrains, so you can get inline edits right in your IDE.
Oh, nice. So it works within the existing workflow better.
Seems like the goal. Plus, there's a Claude Code SDK now, so you can build your own custom agents or apps on top of it.
An SDK. Okay. More flexibility.
Yeah, and a GitHub connector thing that helps respond to code review comments, fix errors automatically. Lots of developer-focused tools rolling out.
Sounds like a comprehensive push on the coding side. Now, we should probably inject a note of caution. These benchmarks? Opus 4 sounds great, but does it top everything?
That's a really important point. No, it doesn't, at least not based on all available data. While it leads on some specific coding benchmarks they highlight.
Like SWE Bench Verified.
Right. But reports, like in TechCrunch, point out it doesn't beat, say, OpenAI's latest GPT-4 models on every benchmark. Things like MMMU or GPQA Diamond, GPT-4 still seems ahead.
Okay, so strong, but not universally dominant on every single metric.
Exactly. And as always, you have to be a little careful interpreting internal benchmarks from any company.
Fair enough. What about safety? Anthropic always emphasizes safety. Any updates with Claude 4?
They're definitely continuing that focus. They say Opus 4 has stricter safeguards, better detectors for harmful content, stronger cybersecurity defenses.
That's good.
But interestingly, their own internal safety testing flagged something. They found a substantial increase in the model's potential for misuse in sensitive science areas, chem, bio, nuclear stuff. It hit their ASL3 level.
ASL3, what does that mean practically?
It's their internal scale for potential harm. ASL3 signifies capabilities that could, hypothetically, significantly aid in misuse if not properly safeguarded. It really just highlights the ongoing challenge. As models get smarter, the safety considerations get even more critical.
Right, the capabilities and the risks grow together.
Okay, let's circle back quickly to the practicals. Pricing and availability, just recap that for us.
Sure, so Opus 4 and Sonnet 4 are on the Anthropic API.
The $1575 one and the $315 one.
Per million tokens, yeah. And they're also available through Amazon Bedrock and Google Cloud's Vertex AI.
Okay. Cloud options, too.
Right. And within Anthropic's own paid plans, you get access to both models, including that extended thinking beta.
And crucially, Sonnet 4
is also available for free tier users on Claude.ai. So anyone can try out the more accessible but still powerful new model. Good. And one more thing, they seem to be planning faster updates now.
Yeah, they mentioned a commitment to more frequent model updates going forward, trying to get improvements out to users quicker.
which you probably have to do in this space right now.
Absolutely. The pace is just incredible.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground on Claude 4. Let's try and boil it down. What are the main things you, listening, should take away from this?
I think the big picture is that Claude 4, especially Opus 4 and Sonnet 4, marks a real jump forward, particularly in coding, handling complex reasoning over time.
Right, that sustained effort idea.
Yeah, plus improvements in using tools, that enhanced memory for context, and the continued focus on safety, even as capabilities rise. It's a significant evolution.
And for you, this could mean a lot of things. If you're a developer, Claude Code and these models might seriously streamline your work. If you're in business, maybe new AI applications become feasible.
Or even just as an individual using AI assistants, you might start seeing more capable, coherent interactions. The potential impact is pretty broad.
It really is.
Yeah.
Which leads to a final thought, maybe something for you to chew on.
Yeah.
Well, seeing these advancements, this pace, how might things change as AI gets even more woven into how we work, how we live? What new possibilities or maybe new challenges are just over the horizon that we haven't even thought of yet?
That's a big question. And maybe what kind of deeper dives would be useful for you next? Where do you see the biggest potential or biggest unanswered questions as these tools evolve? Definitely something to think about.